Senator Tim Scott, welcome to the Daily Social Distancing Show.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here, especially on today. We saw the President of the United States come out and release what many people were surprised to see from him, a sweeping reform, in his opinion, on police force. Some people felt like it didn't go too far. For President Trump, some people were shocked that he even did anything at all. You were in the room. You've been part of those discussions. What did you make of today's executive order?
I thought it was a good day. I thought it was a strong day for the country. I'm glad the president was willing to take up the issue that so many of us have been talking about all of our lives. And frankly, I started this journey 5 years ago in earnest, working on the Walter Scott Notification Act. And to be here now with the president signing an executive order that deals with some of the more important issues, from the tactics like the chokehold to the importance of co-responders, those folks who have mental health issues or addiction issues. This president has done something that almost all the folks on the other side said he would never do. And he found a path forward. And I will say thanks to the president for listening on this important issue.
What I've been really intrigued by, especially in your journey, is something that you've alluded to in your tweets, in that this is an issue that affects all Black people. You've shared your personal experiences, being pulled over by the police 7 times in 1 year. You've shared how that affects you as a human being and how reforms need to be made.
Yes.
What do you think politicians on both sides of the aisle are missing in how they address these issues for Black people in America?
Honestly, that's a great question, Trevor. From my perspective, we are missing if you're talking about the institutions of authority and the power to kill you, for us to not take this issue seriously, not as politicians, but as Americans. There's a reason why the institutions of authority are losing credibility in communities of color, is because they keep shouting about the same things and nothing changes. That is dehumanizing. It lowers all your expectations from society, and it leads to a level of frustration and irritation that is really hard to handle. And so when you see these situations unfolding so many times, and you finally get to the point, what in the heavens will cause a change? And frankly, had it not been for a video camera, I don't think most people would have believed that that officer had his knee on the neck for 8.5 minutes. Had it not been for a video camera, they would not have believed Walter Scott was shot in the back 5 times without a weapon. Had it not been the ability to record these issues, people would not believe us even to this day. And that's why, I apologize for getting so excited about this issue, but this is something we've been working on forever, it feels like. I did a Driving While Black event when I was on county council 20 plus years ago.
Wow.
And to think of the number of people who've had to have their car surrounded because they were simply going to see their grandparents, like I was. To know that there are men and women in this country who feel like they are less than human, or that they're less valuable than someone else just because of the color of their skin. So whether you love President Trump or hate President Trump, I don't care. If you love Americans, we should be thankful that we're having this conversation and making some progress in the right direction on an issue that has plagued the African American community in the same fashion that the COVID-19 is plaguing the world. It's that serious.
One thing I didn't appreciate personally was how people were tweeting at you. When it was announced that you were going to be leading the Republican effort, people said, oh, of course, the token Black guy, the one Black guy, the token. And it implied in many ways that you were only getting this position, because it was saving face, as opposed to the fact that you've been the person who's been pushing for this arguably the most in the Republican Party. Is there a way that you've managed to convince some of your colleagues to say, hey, I know that you believe that you're a law and order person, but the people who are meant to be upholding law and order are themselves breaking the law and have no order? How do you convey that message to some of your colleagues?
Well, this I know law and order has so many definitions, but if you really believe in the law and order concept, the people who believe in it most is the African American community. Frankly, what we want are laws that apply equally in this nation to every single one of us. I want to say to the kids that are coming up now, we see you. You're not invisible. I want them to understand that this country stands for them. And if I have to take the crap from people who want to call me a token, because I'm the guy that had the actual experience, I'm the one that went to the leader of the Senate and said, put me in charge because I'm the guy that understands both how to respect the communities of color and how to cooperate and work with the law enforcement community so that there's not a binary choice. This does not work to our advantage if there's a binary choice. We actually don't need a binary choice. We need one choice. That's a lady of justice, blindfolded. That's what we need. That's what we want. And that's what everyone deserves.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the reforms that you're proposing, because I read through them and I'm not going to lie, what really intrigued me was how a lot of the things that you've been pushing for years, a lot of the things you've been proposing for years, match up with what some people would call defund the police today or abolish. And I know it's become messy. You know, everyone has a different definition of what defund means as abolish. There are a few places that are unified, but it can be messy. I want to talk to you about your proposals without labels. Just tell me your ideas, because I know you have some sweeping reforms that you think need to be introduced into policing in America. What would some of those ideas be?
Well, the first thing I do is we need all the information. Frankly, the House bill and my bill, we have this in agreement. We want to have all the information sent to the Department of Justice, perhaps the FBI, so that we know what's actually happening in the country. About 40% of departments provide information to what's happening. We want it on serious bodily injury and on death because we believe that you look at the Walter Scott situation, the George Floyd situation, and the Breonna Taylor situation, all those things that happen, those tragedies, atrocities, there's not any information. You look at the incident report on Breonna Taylor, it was basically blank and no injuries. So we've actually enhanced the penalties for false police reports in my legislation. We actually say, not only do we want the data, do we then want to direct officers and training through our grants so as to get to the chokehold. If you allow chokeholds in your departments, you become ineligible for those resources, and that's a good thing. And from my perspective, if we're going to have substantial systemic change that moves us in the right direction, the one thing the federal government has is the power of the purse. We don't have the ability to control the local resources, but we can control the federal grants that come into departments. And in my opinion, I would rather pay for good outcomes. And if I do that, then we've done it right, in my opinion.
You are in a position that many Americans are in where they know somebody or they work with somebody who they're trying to convince to do something about the police, which inherently offends many people. Have you made any progress? And if so, how have you managed to make that progress? How do you convince somebody who sees this issue completely differently to you that this needs to be done?
Well, the one thing I start with is a personal story. No one can argue and dispute your personal experience. I think it's powerful, especially as a guy who, everybody says that, the people that get stopped are involved in something bad. Well, I have taken the time and I have a list of strong, powerful, well-positioned African Americans to include the head of police departments who have been stopped by their own departments. So what I try to do is create the narrative that it has nothing to do with your criminal past. This has nothing to do with a record. This has to do with the color of your skin. And so having the ability to have credibility on my side of the aisle to have that conversation actually engages them in a powerful way. On the other side, what I try to say to my friends on the other side is, please do not let the police unions stop you from looking at my bill seriously. Because talking to my friends, they tell me that they're not allowed to sponsor my legislation because the police unions are afraid of it. I don't get it. And so on my side, I try to use personal stories. On their side, I try to use common sense and the long view. I'm hoping, Trevor, that my bill gets a vote and we get it passed. The House bill is going to get a vote and it's going to pass. Wouldn't it be nice for us to find the 85% within the two bills? More resources for the right reasons. Let's de-escalate to save lives. Let's have a duty to intervene so that three guys aren't watching one guy on someone's neck. Let's make sure that we're having the right conversations. Let's make sure that we're dealing with the mental health issues. We're dealing with addictions. We're dealing with homelessness in a ethical manner. Let's make sure that we provide outcomes. If we can do that and we're 80% in agreement, I'll take 80. I don't need my legislation to become law. I want something that says to my nephew at 29 years old or you at 36 years old, that to the next generation of Americans, we see you. If I can do that in this job that I have now, all the name calling and all the bickering and all the crap I take will be well worth it. Because someone like John Lewis made it possible for me to sit in a United States Senate building as the senator and not as a staffer. God has been good. We just need to make sure that it's better for people who are coming behind us.
Senator Tim Scott, thank you so much for your time.
Yes, sir. Have a good day.